Hello and welcome to this episode of Beat Teacher Burnout. I've got Hannah with me today, who's recently started a new role as head teacher. She was a head teacher previously, but this is a new school she's in now. And we're going to be talking about probably ducks and chickens, but also about whether teachers and leaders are human. We're going to be talking about her new book. We're going to be talking about how lonely sometimes our roles in school can be. So before we say anything else, Hannah, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why we're talking about ducks and chickens?
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm head teacher at Orchards, which is part of TCAT. I'm here. Well, we're talking about ducks and chickens because we were talking about well-being, and in my home, I'm fortunate enough to have quite a bit of land, and we have new ducks actually, and chickens, and we have pigs and things like that. And we were talking about how that's kind of my sanctuary, and how being with my children and being in that space and having access to the animals is the thing that I do that really helps me disengage from the challenges of working in education and give me that space to kind of be. So I mean, my husband does a lot more of the work than I do, I'm not gonna lie. He's the kind of poop clearer, feed buyer. I just sort of swan around and enjoy it. Which is as it should
Fantastic. Well,
be.
it sounds, yeah, you've organized yourself very well there. And I guess you said that, one of your children might be up a tree with a duck instead of on an iPad. And I
Yeah.
think that's just a fantastic way to be able to bring up children. What a gift for them.
Yeah, they're never not covered in mud.
Amazing. Amazing. That's what I remember from my childhood. And I guess that's just a lovely thing, isn't it? For you and your well-being as much as for them and how they grow up. So Hannah, what's your experience of, I mean, you've been a leader for ages. What's your experience in schools of burnout or stress or overwhelm? What would you be describing as the situation that you see?
So I think it's definitely something that I've seen get progressively worse. Not relating to the schools that I'm in, but in a national way. I think it's something that was previously potentially relatively limited to those with positions of responsibility. And now it's incredibly widespread because of the increased challenges in terms of stripping back of resources nationally, local authorities, availability. I think there's a real sense of emotional burnout that's a danger, not just around pressures about performance, but actually about supporting children and not feeling, support staff, TAs, everyone in the building that's here because they care about kids and they want them to have a better life, feeling that they're not doing enough, or they're not, providing what they want to be providing because of the lack of resource, because of the national picture, because of the challenges, with families and with poverty and with all of the things that our children have to face. I think that, but emotional burnout has become more prevalent, I would say, and that isn't about deadlines and data, and that's actually about the deep-rooted sense that people are worried about the kids that they're working with, and it's taking its toll. And I think that's really sad for me. That's, and as a head teacher, it's a burden that I absolutely am aware of, trying to recognise that amongst our staff and trying to put things in place to allow them to almost see the limits of their own reach and feel comfortable with that. And that's really at odds, isn't it, as to why we work in education. The two don't really go together. Recognising that your reach is limited and that there are some things that you can't control doesn't really fit with the sort of person that comes into education to transform lives. So it's a hard time in schools right now, and not through the fault of anything other than the national picture, and society, which sounds bleak. That wasn't meant to be that bleak.
Well, we know there's joy in teaching, and we came in to bring joy, didn't we, and to be creative and encourage children to love the whole process of learning and engaging and discovery. But actually, at the same time, we know the research shows that where the staff aren't doing well, then they are not creative. The children are not doing as well. And so it's really important that we start to look at ways that we can support the staff. So What sort of things are you doing? We talked before about the fact that you recognize the human being in each member of staff. What sort of thing are
Yeah.
you doing?
So I think that's really key. And I think I work in a trust currently that has loads of fantastic centralised wellbeing strategies and structures, but actually everybody's different. Wellbeing is such a subjective concept, and what helps one person or prevents burnout in one person or supports someone's mental health isn't the same in another. And it's about leaders having the emotional intelligence and the relationship with their staff to be constantly aware of that and to be having those conversations, normalizing conversations around stress, around workload, around emotional toil, making that part of the common cultural kind of currency that happens in the school, that everybody talks about it. We're so good at talking about how children feel and talking about, things that children need, and explaining to each other, the things that we have learned and know about young people. And actually, we're not very good at talking about ourselves. It's still probably a bit of a British thing. It's a kind of keep on, carry on. And it can be really, hard, I think, it's about making space and time for people and recognizing that a conversation, not in an arrogant way, but a conversation that I might have with somebody is one of 50, but actually to that person, that might be the most important conversation they have that day. And it's about making the space and time to actually listen and to actually kind of check in with people and to be ahead of things. And I think, that's hard to teach. It's hard to put in a policy. It's hard to kind of formalize, but I think it is about hiring leaders with emotional intelligence. It's about encouraging leaders to spend time actually developing those skills, doing those things, the soft skills, that can sometimes be ignored, that you can't really test that well at an interview potentially.
Absolutely, really tough to spot that in an interview. And actually, I know that there's research out there that has asked people if they think they're self-aware, and I think it's 85% of us think we are self-aware, but in fact, only about 15% of us actually are. So there'll be a lot of people listening here who think they're self-aware, but I would say to you today, are you self-aware? And actually, what does it mean if you're less self-aware than you think? Because I thought I was self-aware, but reading this book on flourishing, I think it was by Maureen Gaffney, when I read that, and there's other research out there I know, but it made me think, wow, if I'm less self-aware than I think I am, what does that actually mean? Because if we, for starters, don't understand our own value, we can't then value our team in a healthy way. And that is crucial for leaders to hear. But actually, if you're a member of a team, you need to understand your value so that you have boundaries, so that you can manage conflict, so you can manage your inner thought life and all of that to be the best person you can be. But what would you be saying to leaders or even to teachers? Because we're all part of a team, aren't we? If you are less self-aware than you thought you were, what is the challenge there? What should we be doing in your mind, from your perspective as a head teacher, I suppose?
So I think it's a tricky one, like I said, because obviously it is incredibly personal, and you and I are talking about our journeys and the things that we do or don't do. And, I think that it is about the space for the conversations. And I think it is about emotional intelligence and self-awareness being high on the agenda. It can be really easy to become really operational in a school and for it to all be about tasks and doing, there's so much pressure on people. And I think that people see coaching, people see self-reflection, people see working on themselves as a luxury or as an indulgence or not as part of their role. And I think that people, especially in leadership positions, can get to the stage where they think, well, I've secured it and I'm in the leadership position, so I don't need any more development. Like, this is me, I'm done, I'm the best I can possibly be, well done. And that's not the case at all. And things that, we are all human. And I can reflect on, this is my third headship. I can reflect on previous roles, previous schools, and things now that I think I would have handled that differently, or that perhaps was something that I could have done in a different way that would have had a better outcome. Or, I even, you said that I'm old and I've been doing this forever.
I
Been
didn't
working
say
in
you were
leadership
old.
a long time. Yeah. I actually turned 40 this year, and
Young, very young.
but even in the last 10 years, I can see the significance in, I've had 2 children in that time. I've changed. Like, I've experienced different things. I've been in different organizations, worked with different people. And I think people need to, in leadership, to stop seeing themselves as a fixed leader. Leadership is a skill that you have to practice and work on. And it needs to be a priority, I think, personally. And I think,
Yeah.
bit of humbleness from leaders would
Yeah.
go a long way. And I think, my staff, I hope, appreciate the fact that I'm fallible and human and humble. And I try my very best every day for them, but I won't always get it right. And I think seeing that I am still on a journey, I'm still learning, I'm still reflecting is quite important, I'd say. But
Yeah.
you'd have to ask the
No.
staff.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess one of the things that comes to my mind is I know you know, Hannah, that I've got this course that's just being launched, and it's 5 minutes at the start of every staff meeting to encourage you to talk to your partner, to encourage you to reflect yourself, and then take just a micro nugget of perhaps self-awareness building, or looking at your strengths, looking at your team, where do you fit, things like that, and actually then taking it through the week and talking to your team about it, and maybe a little bit of reflection to think, what do you bring to your team, and where are your strengths, and actually, are you a drain or a radiator, all those different things, just a tiny bit each week, because we don't stop and reflect. And a few people do, and obviously you can see them growing, but we want to get the whole team growing together to change the culture. And I know one of the things that you've been doing is writing a book about how lonely it is being a DSL and what a tough job it is. Do you want to just talk about that a little bit? Because we are talking about each of us here not burning out, having the ability to thrive in a school as part of a whole team, and where
Mhm.
we all fit in that.
Yeah, I mean, can I quickly return to your point about your 5-minute program? Because I think that the power in that as well is that it sets the tone, because it's at the start of the meeting. And we can so often go into CPD or meetings cold, and we go in with the task and we go in with a very operational tone, and people are on their laptops, and it's, people are thinking this is a drain, this is a distraction, I've got this to do. But actually, if you start with that 5 minutes as something deeply human, deeply personal, deeply relevant to every single person, it sets a tone for the rest of the content in the meeting that will be more collaborative, more, that it will encourage self-reflection. It will be more, adds value to the rest of the section, to the rest of what we're doing, because we've got that 5 minutes at the start to set the tone, which is something that I think is handy to have in a course, because most leaders forget to do it. It's not something that you think about. You're thinking about how much time you've got, what you need to get through, etc. So yeah, I can't wait to get started on it. So we're going to try it at Orchards.
Hello, I'm Rowena Hicks, and I'm so pleased to introduce this course to you. It's a short, practical, made to fit into your current routine course that I hope is going to help you, because I know time is precious. Staff are frazzled at the end of the day, but actually this fits into what you're doing already. So why me? Why this? Well, I burnt out after 30 years in school as a teacher, a Senko, a specialist teacher, even an advisor, and then a leader. I burnt out. I loved it. I was passionate, but I had to leave. And that just breaks my heart. Teachers are leaving and they're going off sick. This has to stop. So what I've designed is 5 minutes at the start of each staff meeting. You can give your team something small and powerful to build momentum. You'll build their confidence. You'll improve their well-being, their team dynamics, their energy. You reduce stress and overwhelm. And you're building habits to increase productivity, energy, and joy. So each week, there is a short action sheet, because really there isn't going to be any change without action, is there? But there's no extra cost. You're going to be consistently investing in time together to shift how staff feel, Are they seen? Are they valued? Are they heard? Give them a voice. These are small microculture changes. You're going to be building your staff team and you're going to enable them to thrive. This isn't a well-being bolt-on. It's a culture shifting tool built for real schools by someone who's really walked it. So let's stop staff from leaving and let's help them to flourish and thrive in their roles.
So my book, so it's the second book. So the first book was very much about being a head teacher, and this book is about, I'd say, the hardest job I've ever done in terms of part of my career. I've been a DSL a number of times, on and off, and I'm still obviously very involved in safeguarding. And yeah, being a DSL is the hardest job I've ever done, hands down, because of the loneliness of it, because you hold so much, and because for very necessary reasons, you don't share everything with anyone. Really, there's no one that has your vantage point other than you. And the training is woefully inadequate for DSLs. The training focuses on process. It doesn't take into account the fact that 1 minute you're a teacher who is recognizing signs, reporting things, putting faith in other people. The next minute you're the person that has to make really big calls, and those are often judgment calls. You're the person that has to challenge, you're the person that has to hold that information, you're the person that has to, have incredibly difficult conversations in a range of, I'm not talking just a child disclosing, but difficult professional conversations, difficult conversations with parents, and the person that has to juggle and manage and prioritize things that are all a priority and that cannot end their day when they want to. That was the hardest thing about being a DSL. When we're talking about a child's safety, the day doesn't end when you schedule it to end. The day ends when it's resolved. And I came back from my second child straight into being a DSL at a secondary school, straight fresh out of maternity leave. And, for me, that was the most challenging role I've ever done, and I found that incredibly hard, to organize my life around it, to switch off from it, to, my husband's like, I can't believe you've written a book on safeguarding. I thought we were over that. Because it just is. But I wanted to, you've read the book, and I wanted to put something out there that was more of a supportive. It's not a guide, it's not a checklist, it's not a process. It's about how it feels, and it's something that I hope people can pick up and just find a bit of comfort or familiarity in, and just it's there to remind people that there are other people doing your role that feel the same way, and you're doing a really good job. And part of being a good DSL is you will always feel like you're doing a terrible job. Like, you will never feel success. Like, it's not like that, is it? What does success look like? Removing a child from their home? Like, what, success is, there's no such thing, is there, really, in safeguarding, because there's always someone at risk. That's really bleak. No one's going to buy this book now.
They will buy the book because it is brilliant. So I read it. It actually hasn't quite come out yet, so I got a sneaky peek. And I guess, having done so much safeguarding through my life in school, what came to me as someone who gets the fact that you're holding all this emotional baggage, if you like, of these families, not just the children, it's the whole family so often. And you're trying to support the staff to then support the families as well and the children, but you're holding it. And in the book, it just describes what that feels like. And you don't, you say it how it really is, Hannah. And I really hope that schools buy it for big teams to read, because it's not just for one person to read, and it's not just for a DSL to read. It's to help others, the teachers and the leaders, to understand what it's like when you're holding all that in, because it's not just a 30-minute interview you've had, it's not just a 2-hour meeting you've had. You then take away this whole I would almost describe it like a cloud that sits with you as you try and process all that painful information that you've had. And we're talking today about, the fact that each of us in our roles in schools, we're all human and we're all taking things away. And, I've spoken to teachers and I did it myself where, I remember in my first year of teaching, I'll never forget the disclosure from a child. And it was, I remember that moment. I remember where I was in the classroom. I remember exactly what she said to me and the impact on me. But of course, then I went to the DSL and then passed it on. Of course, I did live it through with that child through the year, but I had someone to share it with. But the DSL doesn't always take it on, can't always. So it's a tough role, and we're remembering here that everybody is human in school. And sometimes we sort of seem to think that teachers and leaders are machines. And I know often I speak to teachers who are struggling, and I'm saying, but remember, your head teacher, like Hannah, is a human being. And that's where I think where the leaders can say, look, I'm struggling today, where they can be real and open and honest. It gives others permission to do that, and it filters through the school.
It's really interesting. I was having this conversation with my leadership team this week. So we have something that I put in here, which is that every member of staff has a PPA at the end of the day, 1 day a week, and they can go off site. So they can go home after lunch 1 day a week, which means that staff can pick up their children 1 day a week from school, or go to Waitrose and get the good avocado, or go to the gym, or do all of those things 1 day a week, and remember that the world carries on when teaching happens. There's a world during the day out there as well, and it's really important for staff wellbeing. It has a really nice impact, and it's having an impact here. But my leadership team are also scheduled to do it, and they're not taking it, they're not leaving. And so I've had this conversation with them that unless they model that it's fine and it's encouraged and it's a positive thing, it's not someone slacking off, or, teachers notoriously don't want to look like, they hold themselves to a really high standard, don't they? And I was saying to my team just yesterday, you need to take it. You need to visibly be seen leaving site at 2:00. You need to go, even if you just want to go and sit in the car park. You need to go, because staff need to see it. At every level, we're humans, and at every level we've got lives, and unless we model it, they won't do it, and they won't see it as a positive. So I think it's really important that to staff, we're people.
So I have a question for you.
I've had days.
But do you go off site 1 day a week?
I do where I can. Absolutely.
And what's the impact of that for you?
Well, I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and school, their education and their childcare. My young man's at nursery, my little lady's at school. I miss it. I miss their education, and this is something else that's in place here now. So we cover each other for sports days, for nativities, for all of those things. I'm at, for being a best man at a wedding, I'm absolutely committed here. And teams are happy to cover each other and muck in, to us not missing out on anything. As a teacher, you don't have to sacrifice your own child's educational experience, but you so often do. And we had lots of staff whose little ones had then turned, it was their first year of school this year. So obviously that first week is really, really important. And they were missing first drop off. They were missing meet the teacher after, So we put that in place so they could this year, so that we covered and we rearranged the schedule so that those staff could do those things. That really matters. Like it really matters, because people are people first. And if you feel like you're letting your own children down, how can you possibly serve the rest of the children without resentment? Like, it's I don't think you should have to pick between being there we go. As a deputy head, I worked for a very brief period for a head teacher that was only in temporarily, and he actually said the phrase to me, I don't think you can be a good mum and a good deputy head. I think you need to pick.
Oh my goodness. I am so shocked.
That's not that rare.
He actually said that in black and white, said that. You can't be a good mum and a good deputy head. Wow. What did you do?
Said, I think I probably can, but thanks. And then went and cried in my car.
Yeah, I bet you did. I wonder how people are responding. I am speechless. I mean, I've heard bad things. So I worked with a head once who called me in and said, oh, the TA, this particular TA, she's had one day off for her grandfather's funeral. She's now asking for another day off this year for her daughter's graduation. I said, well, of course she must go. And they go, oh, no, not 2 days. I just thought,
I had that.
wow.
And I'm
determined.
I'm determined that's not the schools that I run. Like, that is, no one here will ever feel like that felt. I mean, but that was cultural. You know, that, yes, of course, that individual was, you know. Yeah, I think, you know, it's really important we set the tone, isn't it? And people don't have to pick. Why should you? Like, why should you have to? And that's why people are leaving teaching. That's why we're losing teachers. People are being made to choose between well-being and a healthy, happy life and teaching, as if they're not compatible. They are compatible. It can be done. People just need to put the effort into making it so. And yeah, that's a challenge. But, you know, unless we're working on that challenge, we shouldn't be leading. Like, we are as good as our people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Hannah, where can people find you if they want to talk about some of these ways that you're managing to enable someone to be a fantastic staff member and a fantastic parent? How can they connect with you? What's the best way?
LinkedIn, email. I wouldn't stop by the school, ideally.
Okay.
I think our receptionist might faint. Yeah, no, just, you know, yeah, LinkedIn, email. We've got a website. I work for TCAT. I mean, I would say, you know, genuinely, and I'm not saying this because someone from TCAT will be watching, but they are a really great organisation. They're doing big things around women and maternity leave and kind of female women in leadership. We've got like a women in leadership support group, and you know, there is a lot happening at TCAT as well that I would urge people to have a little look at. That's quite forward thinking. That's great. So yeah, but
Amazing.
you know, socials are probably the easiest way to find me.
Okay, we'll put those in the show notes and the newsletter that comes out in case people are wondering. And your book, what's it called?
So my book that's just about to come out is The Honest DSL, and that's on Amazon. And I also write in various magazines, and then also I've got The Honest Head Teacher, which is still available on Amazon. And those are both with Teacher Writers, which is a fantastic publisher and community to be part of. Shout out to Andy. Yeah, they do a lot around staff wellbeing and writers that are educators. So yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, Hannah, I'm so grateful. I think you've shocked me, really shocked me.
Sorry.
I haven't had, no, it's fantastic. I feel really challenged by that. And I just hope that anyone listening to that has not got that experience in their schools. But if you have, do reach out to either of us, because we're here to support.
100%.
Yeah.
Always
let us know if you've got any questions. Yeah,
do
we can't be
get
having
in touch. No, we can't, and we are all a big team.
Yeah, we have to support each other, don't we?
100%.
Yeah.
All right, well, it was lovely to talk to you.
Thanks, Hannah, and thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.